Scorpio is ready. Hi guys, so I hope I managed to wipe off all the flour. Originally I was smothered in it all around my mouth, but by the time I'd set up the tripod and got the gun ready and I was all ready to go, it had all started to peel off me, a bit like the mud comes off Arnie at the end of the first Predator film, but maybe you could just about make out some white stuff, I don't know. So it was always inevitable that at some point I would do a Predator rankings because this is one of my favourite franchises. I've been watching these films since probably the early 90s. My dad had the original film on tape, and then we rented the second film from a video store at a time when the second film was probably almost a new movie, really. And then since then, I've tended to watch every new film as it's come out, more or less. So we've got 7 films in total today. These films don't tend to come out very often. I think there have only been 7 Predator films in 35 years since they got started, and 2 of those are not actually official Predator films. They're actually Alien vs Predator films. But I am going to include those because I still consider them to be part of the overall series. So let's jump into it, and we will start, of course, with the one that I consider to be the weakest. I only got around to watching this one this week. Yes, I am genuinely a big Predator fan, honest. The thing is though, when this came out, everybody just ripped it to shreds. Critics, fans, nobody liked it. Even today, you go on social media, if the subject of this film comes up, people get really emotional about it, really angry. So at the time it came out, I just kind of put off watching it for a little while, and then a little while longer, and then years had passed. I think if I'd have spotted it available for free on a streaming platform during that time period, I probably would have gone and watched it, but that just never seemed to happen. And this week, with my ranking video coming up, I knew I would have to finally spend some money on it, so I dropped £4 to rent it. To my surprise, though, I really enjoyed it. I found this really entertaining, and that just left me feeling really confused. Like all the way through, I was thinking, why am I not hating this like everybody else? I mean, I would need a notepad and a pen to have written down all the really classy moments in this film, all the little cool things that happened. It's never boring, this movie. If I was going to criticise it at all, I'd say it does feel a little bit plasticky and artificial at times, like it was meant to have been like a Predator Netflix limited series or something. It doesn't quite have the gravitas of some of those really serious early Predator films. It's like maybe they should have taken Shane Black off this at some point during the production and brought in like a John McTiernan type figure, you know, a proper expert in putting together an action blockbuster, just to toughen it up a bit. Maybe take some of the humour out, because there's a lot of humour in this, a lot of stuff that you would call light. And I did like a lot of the jokes, but I think maybe there was a bit too much of that stuff, you know. I kept feeling the sense throughout this that the characters just think it's all a bit of a lark, you know. It's not like a proper serious life or death thing like in the first Predator film or some of the others. But I was never bored. I was having a good time for most of the movie, and I could definitely see myself watching this again in the future if I was going to do all the Predator films in order again. So I'd probably give this 3 out of 5. I'm a little bit sad actually I can't put it a little bit higher up than just putting it bottom and being a little bit boring in that sense. But none of the other movies, I don't dislike any of those other ones to put them below the Predator. And the fact that I've just watched this, I feel like I need to digest it a little bit more. A lot of the other ones today on the list, I've seen many times over many years. I've really grown to like them in all sorts of different kinds of ways. So sadly, this one has got to be bottom. But it ain't no disaster, I'll tell you that. So if you want some reasons as to why this one has come low today, it does feel like it's trying to copy the first movie a little bit too much. It's like a tribute band, this film. I mean, there are some differences, obviously, the most notable one being the fact that we're not on Earth, but the film might as well be on Earth because we only really see a jungle. This film could take place in some random jungle in Papua New Guinea or something, and you could pretty much leave most of the script unaltered. It doesn't make that much difference that we're on a Predator planet because we don't really see anything apart from trees. Also, the characters in this are constantly bickering, they're at each other's throats, whereas, you know, in the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, you get that sense of camaraderie, of personal history between the characters. You know, there's that mutual respect there that's been built up over a long period of time. You don't get that with these random prisoners who are just you know, thrown together at the start of the story. Also, there's this character who turns up halfway through this. He's played by a very, very famous actor, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He comes into the film and then just gets killed off like 2 minutes later, and it's like, okay, what was the point of that? But I think that moment of the film, actually, when they're in the boiler room of that ship, that's when this film needed to veer away from Predator 1 and really do its own thing. You know, show us something that's going to surprise us. Show us like the Predator city that we see at the beginning of Alien versus Predator Requiem, or show us more of the ship, impress us, you know. Don't just show us this one little boiler room and then we're back to the woods and the trees again and that's it. So I think the film could have given us more in terms of spectacle, but I still really like it. I watched it just the other week, actually, just to remind myself of it, because I knew that this video was coming up. And I enjoyed it more than I remembered. I was able to kind of put the issues aside on this particular rewatch and just enjoy it for what it is. It's got lots of good action in it. Adrian Brody's really good. The woman in it's pretty cool. I like the character with the samurai sword. You know, it is fun. It's a fun time. I just don't rank it as one of my personal favourites. I was always destined to be a fan of Alien vs Predator because I like both franchises. No, scratch that. I love both franchises. Very different with something like Freddy vs Jason, because even though I'm a fan of Friday the 13th, I really couldn't care less about Freddy. So the whole Freddy vs Jason thing, it never really excited me, you know. Different story with this, though. I mean, the pyramid in this film is just amazing. The design of it's fantastic. I love how the floors kind of change around and trap the characters in different shaped rooms and stuff. This movie is an absolute nightmare for the human characters. I used to think that the characters in this, the human ones, were absolutely weak as piss. You know, I mean, they offer no resistance in this film whatsoever. They are just pathetic, really, apart from the main girl. Over the years, though, I've started to have a little bit of sympathy for them the more times I've watched the movie. You know, I mean, in a normal Alien film, it'd be really hard to survive, and same in a normal Predator film, but in a movie where there are aliens and predators, and you've got to try and survive in this weird Rubik's Cube type alien building thing in the middle of Antarctica, that would be very, very difficult. So I'm kind of coming around to thinking that the characters in this film are not maybe as bad as I used to think they were. And you get a little bit of Colin Salmon in this. He's really cool. And Lance Henriksen as well. The whole movie's just damn cool. I mean, you know, I've liked this since it came out. Although the only thing I'll say is it wasn't as long as I wanted it to be. Like, when I first watched this, I remember thinking, that's it? It's just a 90-minute movie? I wish this had been like, you know, the length of something like Aliens Special Edition or something, because once the action really kicks into gear in this film, it does seem to end very, very soon. And it's like, oh my God, I was really enjoying that. But I guess they had a certain budget they had to stick to. And when you think about it, those Alien versus Predator fight scenes that you get, they're probably quite time consuming and expensive to put together. But yeah, great film, man, great film. Out of all my recent Predator rewatches, this film probably improved the most for me, and I already kind of liked it anyway from watching it in the past. But if you spend any amount of time listening to horror opinions on social media, you'll know that this film gets ripped almost as much as Shane Black's The Predator, and the chief complaint is that the film is apparently too dark. Now, I've never noticed that before in the past, but for this rewatch, I kind of thought that I might notice the darkness more just because people have now put it in my head, sort of thing. And sure enough, I did kind of notice a few dark scenes in the opening 10-15 minutes, but my eyes adjusted the more I got into it, and for most of the rest of the movie I was all right. Plus, at one point, I realised that because I was watching this in the afternoon, the sunlight coming through the window was just glaring off the screen slightly and making it harder anyway. But once I sorted that problem out and the room was a little bit gloomier, a little bit darker, I was absolutely fine, in all honesty. So I think you've got to get your home set up right for this movie, but I don't think the darkness ruins the film. I'd much rather a film be too dark, maybe, like this, than too light, like Freddy vs. Jason. I mean, that film is so brightly lit. Sorry, not Freddy vs. Jason, Jason 10. The spaceship in that film is so brightly lit that there's no atmosphere whatsoever, but I like the atmosphere in this. I like the fact that heavy rain is falling all the way through. It gives a nice kind of effect, I think. And this film is very uncompromisingly violent and brutal. You know, things play out exactly as I would expect them to. if there was an alien infestation in a small town, you know, the aliens multiply very quickly. The human characters get skittled over very, very easily. But that's fine in a movie where there are lots of characters. There are 5 or 6 different main characters set up near the beginning of this, which makes the story interesting, because you're never quite sure then which characters are going to make it to the end. And even the other night, watching this film for like the 4th time maybe, I'd completely forgotten that one of the main characters dies like 20 minutes from the end in a kind of weird accident as well, involving a predator weapon. And I was like, whoa, didn't expect that to happen. Well done, film. Even though I've seen it before, I completely forgot that was going to happen. But there's lots of good stuff to enjoy in this. I like the fact that they do lots of Easter eggs for some of the earlier Alien vs Predator films. The sound effects, for example, the alien screams are the same that you hear in James Cameron's Aliens, and there are a lot of throwbacks to the earlier Predator music, like when the camera goes up the trees really slowly to reveal something the Predator's done, and you just hear that kind of subtle sort of jungle music. Lots of good stuff in this. I really enjoyed it the other day. I mean, it's just 90 minutes of great Alien versus Predator, gory fun, and what more do you want? And I almost put this film at number 3. I had to sort of grab myself, pull myself back from the precipice a little bit, because maybe 3rd place would be a little bit too far, but I'll absolutely defend this film. It is my favourite of the 2 Alien vs Predator movies. Now, similar to The Predator from 2018, I've only just seen this film for the first time. Obviously, it is a new film, but I found this one much easier to digest and analyse from just one viewing than I did The Predator. I mean, there's so much content in The Predator from 2018 that I think I'd need to watch it like 3 times to properly take everything in and work out how I feel about how certain things in that film were done. But much easier with Prey. I mean, by the end of this, I was fully satisfied that I'd watched a really cool Predator movie. I think the simplicity works really well in this one. You've just got one Comanche woman basically trying to survive one predator in the grasslands of North America. There's no great depth in the story, but you don't need it for something like this. And it's nice to see a Predator film unshackled from the rest of the mythology. It can pretty much do its own thing. It is quite slow in the first 35-40 minutes, but I think that's necessary just to let you get an understanding of the world. You get to enjoy the scenery a little bit, get to know the main character, and then when the action does kick in, it's really great. There's some really good gory splatter as the Predator rips through loads of the North Americans, Native Americans, whatever you want to call them. The main girl, though, I forget her name, but I know the actress's name, Amber Midthunder. She's absolutely fantastic in this, and I like the fact that they've reduced the Predator's technology in this one, because I did wonder to myself, how the hell are they going to have people with spears taking on a guy who's got like a laser blaster on his shoulder? But thankfully they've dialed some of that stuff down and made it a very reduced version of the Predator, if you like. That was a crucial component for me in making this film work. But yeah, well done, Disney, because isn't it great to have people actually talking about the Predator franchise in a positive way, which is what they're doing now, because loads of people like this film, and rather than just slagging off all the sequels as people seem to have done for many, many years. You know, there's so many people out there who don't like any of these films apart from the original with Arnie, but now we seem to have a very critically appreciated Predator film, and that is really nice. Yeah, I've only got the original Predator film at number 2. Now,
Dad, you just lost 3 subscribers.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've got Predator 1 at number 2?
Yeah.
Well, I can't please everybody. You know. But I want to point out that this is still a 5-star movie for me. Yeah. I've always really enjoyed...
lost 2 more.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What? I could do this bit again and just put Predator 1 at the top spot. I mean, it's all ratings at the end of the day, isn't it, right? Is that still rolling? No. You know what? Actually, I'm going to stick to my guns and keep this in 2nd place. I've had 30 years to digest Predator 1 and Predator 2. I've seen them both countless times, and I just prefer the second one. It's not like I don't think the first one is a 5-star movie. I do. It just so happens I also think the second one is a 5-star movie, and when push comes to shove, I just prefer Predator 2. Sorry. But instead of waxing lyrical about the original Predator today, I thought I would give you a couple of anecdotes that are personal to me about the 87 Predator film, because what more is there to say about Predator at this point? It's like trying to talk about the original Halloween. It's difficult to talk about the movie and give people stuff they haven't already heard a million times over. So there were a few things that I assumed about this film when I watched it as a kid, and I used to watch it many times as a kid. But later in life, I realised that I was totally wrong. I was very naive in my thoughts. So, give you an example. Shane Black's character, I can't remember his name, he tells these pussy jokes in this film, and I didn't get these jokes as a kid, so I just assumed that they were jokes with no punchline. I assumed that this character just didn't understand what jokes were, and that's why Billy doesn't laugh the first time, because it's not even funny. And then the second time, I just assumed that when Billy laughs the second time, he's just doing it out of sympathy. And then when I watched the film much, much later, suddenly I thought to myself, oh, I get these jokes now, right, okay. But this was like after 6 or 7 viewings of the movie. Another part of this film involves Dutch and his group storming this encampment, and they kill these guys. And there are 2 guys left in this treehouse type position, and Blaine, played by Jesse Ventura, he looks up and says to someone, "Those sons of bitches are dug in like an Alabama tick." But I used to think that he said Alabama chick. That's just how I heard it. So I remember thinking about this as a kid and wondering, what the hell does he mean by that? Now, I knew that Alabama was a place in America, so I thought to myself, by chick, does he mean woman? Is it just a thing in Alabama that women have got a reputation for moving in with a guy, getting pregnant maybe, and then the guy just can't get rid of him? So there's this phrase now, you're dug in like an Alabama chick. That's what I thought it meant. That's what I just assumed. I sort of did some guesswork there, but at some point on my God knows what viewing, I finally heard the word tick, and I think that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'll give you one more. So there's a scene, again, in the the encampment scene where all the terrorists get killed. There's a moment where Carl Weathers' character, he's picking up some papers and he's saying things like, "Oh, it looks like we hit the jackpot." And then Dutch grabs him and thrusts him against a wall and says something like, "It's all bullshit, the cabinet minister, all of it." And I just used to assume that the cabinet minister was like the person who looks after the filing cabinets. I didn't realise it was like a person of significant government power, which is certainly how it is in the UK. I don't know about other countries, but yeah, so I thought this whole film was based around Carl Weathers' character trying to get hold of some admin assistant somewhere who looks after filing cabinets. So yeah, the things that you think as a kid and then they turn out to be something different. For me, when it comes to this film, those things are just numerous. But yeah, I've tried my best to distract you from the fact that I've put this film in second place today. But you know what? Let's not fall out. Life is way too short. Fucking voodoo magic, man. I tell you what I believe. Shit happens. The lions, the tigers, the bears, oh my. You gotta tee it high and let it fly. Whew. Me and Danny grew up together, 15 years on the fucking street. I'm gonna finish it. Want some candy? Get out of here, Harrigan. This is between me and him. Okay, I'm done now. As you can probably guess, I absolutely love Predator 2. I've actually got a steelbook for this one. For me, it's just a perfect action film. It's so, so cool. I love the Harrigan character as well. For me, he's a better character than Dutch from the first movie. Danny Glover just brings so much intensity to this role, and I love the fact that it's him chasing the Predator at the end of this film, not the other way around. That's an important thing. All the cops are depicted as really good, brave people in this as well. You think back to the Danny character, going back to that crime scene, and Bill Paxton's character on the train. You know, he tries to take on the Predator. He doesn't just go to the back with all the passengers and stuff. And all the action bits throughout this are just so satisfying. Like the opening battle with the Colombians, is it, in the building? It's just an amazing scene. And then the tower block scene with is it Jamaicans in that section? That section used to scare me so much as a kid. I used to have nightmares about the Predator getting me in like a big tall tower block, and maybe he'd be hiding up in the rafters or something. And as I've already demonstrated, this film's just got so many cool quotes. I love the Keys character played by Gary Busey. That whole subplot with the FBI task force. It's not FBI, but it's a task force trying to trap the predator in a slaughterhouse. Really well done as well. But the story for this, just from first to last, is just amazingly written. Just a perfect film for me. Absolutely love it. And it's got so many cool little details all the way through that you won't even notice if you only watch the film once. Like, for example, when we first go to the police station, there's like a slow tracking shot into the police station. This random punk just nuts somebody, and it's like, you don't have to take the time to put that tiny little thing in there that no one's even going to notice, but they do that anyway. And this film's absolutely packed with cool moments like that. It's very well directed, very well put together. As my dad would have said, it's a well-made film, really well made. It's not just a slapdash sequel. This is something that a lot of effort went into, and I just enjoy it more than the first Predator film. So, nanas to you. Right, okay, that was my Predator ranking, whatever you want to call it. And do let me know let me know your list in the comments below. And other than that, I will leave it there for today. Until next time, cheerio, bye bye.